Welcome back to Echozoe Ministries Lessons in Logic. And if you haven't seen the introduction, please go back and watch that. And we'll talk a little bit about the importance of logic and why we study logic, why you should study logic, why you should get at least a basic understanding of logical principles. And for this session, we're going to talk about the Red Herring Fallacy. Red herring is a specific type of logical fallacy that it's really meant to distract either the opponent of a debate or an audience on the subject that's being debated. Typically, it swaps out the actual issue at hand or the idea for one that's easier to address or easier to mock or easier to put down. Red herring actually is, I like to think of it as it's a fallacy, but it's also kind of a category of fallacies. So we're going to see a bunch of other fallacies that, when I go back in the introduction, I talked about logic being both an art and a science. And we're going to see that this being kind of on the art side again, where things can sound like they're red herring fallacies, but maybe they fit better with another fallacy that we would consider actually a subset of red herring, as when you consider red herring as a category versus red herring as an actual fallacy. So the origin of the term red herring, it's believed that it refers back to an old hunting or an evasion strategy where a red herring is a pungent, smelly fish, and that someone would drag that over a trail in order to get dogs that are following a scent distracted and to go in the wrong direction. So the whole point of a red herring is to get somebody to go in the wrong direction. So as I mentioned already, it's a fallacy itself. It's also a general category of fallacies. So, sorry, my clicker's not working. Sorry, as I do this, I have a screen up where I can see the screen that you'll be seeing here that I'm superimposing in post, and right now my clicker's not working, so I'm gonna have to just jump up and manually advance it to the next slide. But a good example of a red herring, it comes from a debate from my friend Bob DeWay years ago. Debated Doug Pagitt, and Doug Pagitt is a leader in the emerging church movement, and as a part of the emerging church system, he subscribes to postmodernism, this idea that we can't actually know truth, and it's a big thing, and I won't get into here, but Bob turned to Doug Pagitt and he said that logic applies. For instance, because as a postmillennialist, Doug would not give a whole lot of ground to logic and logical principles. So it's just, for instance, Doug, you will walk out of this room through the door and not through the wall. And again, something I talked about in the introduction, where you're using very simple, basic logic all the time and you don't even realize it, but walking through the door rather than walking through the wall. So Doug Pagitt throws in a red herring fallacy. He says, radio waves go through the wall. Well, Doug, that's great. You're not a radio wave. You're a human being. You have to go through the door. So, and again, if you want to get the entire series, Lessons in Logic, at echozoe.com, you can see the address there on your screen. But that is the red herring fallacy. Thank you for joining me, and we'll see you again.